The New Orleans Saints currently have $27 million in cap space as it stands right now. So it begs the question, are there still some big moves that could come for the New Orleans Saints? What's in the works? What's going to happen? What could go down? We're going to break it down in full detail here in Saints Now by Chat Sports. Welcome into today's show. My name is Trizzy Trace Gerard. Thank you so much for tuning in. And for what it's worth, I want to just give some credit to the Saints because, despite some people's opinions of the Tyler Shuck pick, basically outside of that, I think it's been a pretty smart offseason for New Orleans. They haven't traded away any future assets outside of a 2026 7th-round pick for Davon Godchaux. They also made all 9 selections. They haven't done anything ridiculous with the contracts as of right now. So, for my opinion, I think it's actually been a pretty smart offseason. So, let's talk about the possible moves that could still potentially go down. We're going to start off with roster cuts, and I'm going to let you find out what these are here in just a second. Roster cuts are a big thing to discuss because as of right now, like I said, the Saints have $27 million in money to spend, but there's still 2 problems to solve on the roster. Before you go and spend any money at all, you have to figure out the solution to 2 very, very expensive contracts, and they're the 2 most expensive contracts on the books here in 2025. The first one being Derek Carr. He has a $20.5 million cap hit, and Taysom Hill, he carries a $17.9 million cap hit, just under $18 million. So what does it look like, discussing the potential of cutting both of these players? Let's take a look. The Saints, if you cut Derek Carr, you're going to owe him that money no matter what. So if you cut him, that's it. You just post June 1, either designate him as a June 1st cut, or you wait 24 days and you can make him a cap casualty then. And this is after the contract was restructured. So this is the most up-to-date numbers there. Right now in 2026, Carr holds a cap number of 69.2, very nice dollars. That being said, that is just way, way, way too much money in my opinion. But if you did look to trade him, you would save $1.25 million rather than losing $20.4 million. So I just don't think a trade is really going to go down. I would be shocked. I could be wrong. But when it comes down to Derek Carr, we have to figure out what's going on with the injury there because Mickey Loomis has gone on and said on multiple occasions that the plan is Derek Carr will be the starting quarterback if he's healthy. Ian Rappaport joined Pat McAfee today, and he said, Carr is trying to get healthy. He's trying to get on the field. He wants to play. He's trying to avoid surgery so that way he can be ready to go week 1. So we have to figure out what's going on there. Despite all of that, I still think he will end up being cut by the New Orleans Saints. They have the money to spend with a little bit left over if you do make this as cap casualty. And to be totally honest, it just feels like the Derek Carr era has come to an end in New Orleans. Now let's go to Taysom Hill here because for what it's worth, you can cut Derek Carr, you lose $20 million, but that you can get $10 million of it back if you cut Taysom Hill. And I want it on record right now. I want it very, 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 very clear. Too many people in my comments did not hear me when I said I do not want to cut Taysom Hill, but to sit here and say that they absolutely should not, there's a conversation to at least be had here. $10 million in savings is not insignificant. You can go from $7 million in spending to $17 million to spend, and that's the difference between a couple playmakers and maybe a roster bubble guy versus a true starter. And look, I don't even think you actually have to touch Taysom Hill's contract. Like, you don't. You can just pay him the money, and you have the money to spend, and you're good, and the books don't change whatsoever. So for Taysom Hill, if he is a part of Kellen Moore's offense, and if he is going to be featured on the offense when he's healthy, and if he can come back from injury in a relatively timely manner, of course, you don't want to rush the injury, you don't want to rush the return, but you want to see him on the field before the last couple of weeks of the season. Like, honestly, I'm just leaving the contract alone. I wouldn't touch it. I would just say, Taysom, we love you. You've done so much for the team. You've done so much for the city. Let's just keep you on the books how it is right now, and we'll maybe reevaluate here in a couple weeks, see what happens, and then we can see how the injury is rehabbing and go from there. But I'm personally just not touching the contract. For what it's worth, I want to encourage you to join the Golden Gang. Right here, Saints Now by Chat Sports, we are a strong, strong family of over 45,000 members. So if you want to be a real one and join our Golden Gang, hit the sub button and turn on the notifications. The Golden Gang, it's easy to join. But if you're a real one, you have your notifications set to all. So click the bell icon, set it to all so that way you never miss any content we put out. This is the second video we put out today for what it's worth. So you might as well get notified anytime we put out videos. Let's go to the next possible move. Obviously, free agency is still going on for the New Orleans Saints, so they could still go and make some moves. So $27 million to spend. What do you want to spend it on? For me, I think the biggest needs remaining are cornerback and wide receiver. And it's a specific type of wide receiver, and it's a specific type of cornerback. For the corner position, I want to look towards Asante Samuel. I would love this player to be suited up in the black and gold. He has familiarity with Brandon Staley with their time in the Chargers. He is a player that is a guy, or he is a player, that has been very effective in his career, but last year missed a lot of time due to injuries. And in terms of the injury update, it's not the most luxurious, and it's honestly not super hopeful. That being said, it is an update. So with Asante Samuel, he remains unsigned, and it's because of a medical concern that's impacting teams' interest in him. That's coming from Mike Garafolo. The medical concern is related to the neck and shoulder injury that limited him to just 4 games in 2024. The previous report said that he's dealing with something similar to stinger symptoms, though lasting for months rather than weeks. So with Asante Samuel, he's a productive player when he's on the field. However, if he cannot be on the field, then you got to see what's up. It's not worth the contract. So I would love to see it. If the medical's clear, go get Asante Samuel. But in terms of other players out there, I want to get a veteran corner. I think that's what the Saints are missing in somebody who can take over as a leader. No knock to Isaac Yiadom for what it's worth. Let's talk wide receiver, though, because this is really where I think the money needs to be spent. The Saints did not draft a wide receiver in the 2025 NFL draft class. So I think receivers a need. And we keep saying it. We've said it since early March. The Saints have a specific need at wide receiver. It's a big-bodied ex-receiver that can operate over the middle, that can take a lot of hits, that can be a player that gets a lot of attention. And I think with Keenan Allen, he could be a good option. He did actually have familiarity with Kellen Moore because he was a wide receiver for the Chargers when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator. And for what it's worth, he had his second best season of his career when Kellen Moore was the play caller. So, he knows how to utilize them. Of course, Justin Herbert, much better than Derek Carr or Tyler Shuck, but still knows how to scheme up plays for him. And, I do think with Keenan Allen, he's a veteran wide receiver that could add some size, that could be a good player that can take over in a different role than what Brandon Cooks is doing. He's a great veteran wide receiver that can burn you downfield. I think Keenan Allen is a great veteran wide receiver that can do some damage over the middle. So for the New Orleans Saints, I think that wide receiver is a big-time need. But hey, we talked about maybe cutting Derek Carr. If you cut Derek Carr, quarterback becomes a need. So in terms of free agent quarterbacks available, you might need to go and get one of these guys. I'm just going to say avoid Aaron Rodgers. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm good. No amount of money. I don't care what the contract is. I'm good. I don't want to deal with the extracurriculars of Aaron Rodgers. Carson Wentz, maybe he learned something from Patrick Mahomes. That'd be pretty cool. Teddy Bridgewater. Bring back Teddy Two Gloves. That'd be electric. I know my boy Ross Jackson is a big fan of that one. So shout out to Ross, shout out to Locked On Saints. But yeah, 32 years old, Teddy Two Gloves. That'd be pretty fun to see back in New Orleans. Again, only if you need a veteran quarterback. This is if you cut Derek Carr and you need that veteran presence. Because to be totally honest, I'm not really loving the idea of Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck being your quarterback room. You got to have a guy who's been around for some time. Tyler Huntley, another name to keep an eye out for. Only 27 years old, but he does have a lot of experience from his time in Baltimore and Miami. So I want to ask you a question. What is a free agent that you would sign? And not who is a free agent that the Saints should sign? I mean, I gave you a bunch of names. I gave you a bunch of different positions. If there's a position group that I didn't list, I'm all ears. I want to hear from you and see what you got to say. Now, coming up, maybe a major trade could be in the works. We talked about cutting players. We talked about signing players. Could Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore be cooking up something big? We're going to find out here in a moment. But I want to encourage you to get some Saints gear. Guys, Mother's Day is about to happen. I know my mom, I know she watches most of the shows. I don't think she's going to watch this one. I forgot to get my mom a Mother's Day gift. Joey, this is bad news bears here. You're all good? Okay, well, I'm not all good. I am not in the clear. Chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. It'll cover your ass. Trust me. You want to get a jersey. Also, if you just want to get some new gear for a friend, family, or for yourself, we got men's, women's, children's sizes. We got the home, the away, the throwbacks, the color rush, all sorts of awesome gear. Chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. Link is in the comments and description of this video. So go get yourself some new swag. Any player, anyone you want. It's also Cam Jordan Day. What better way to celebrate Cam Jordan Day than going and getting a Cam Jordan jersey? Come on. Chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. Alrighty, let's talk big trade because that is another potential move that could go down here for the New Orleans Saints. Again, $27 million to spend. They have to sign. I forgot to acknowledge this earlier. That's my fault. I had a note to do this. They have yet to sign their rookie class, but that's not going to cost you too much money, at least in the 2025 cap number. So you will still have money to spend despite signing your rookie class and not yet doing that. So let's go to trade targets. I got 4 names. There's not a lot of juicy names out there in the trade market in terms of players that are available and positions in need, but 4 players that I'm really, really honing in on here. I'm intentionally kept Tyreek Hill off. I don't think you need another speed demon. Again, specific type of player. Not a player like Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Ramsey, Dolphins are shopping him. That could be a good one. A lot of connections to Brandon Staley from their time with the Los Angeles Rams. Jalen Ramsey has a lot of respect, saying that Brandon Staley is one of his favorite coaches he's ever played for. Brandon Staley sharing that sentiment, has a lot of respect for Jalen Ramsey. That could be an interesting addition. Kayvon Thibodeaux, we're going to talk about him in a second. This is definitely one I'm keeping my eye on. Jaire Alexander, the best ability is availability, but when he's on the field, he's a big-name player, and he does make some big-time plays still. And Cole Kmet, I'm not going to sit here and try to sell you that tight end as a massive position in need, but if the Saints did not get what they wanted out of their tight end room between like the lower end of the guys and Dallin Holker and Foster Moreau and Maliki Matavao and some of those other players, this is a guy, especially with Taysom Hill being injured, that could be a contributor in the tight end department. Now let's hone in on Kayvon Thibodeaux here, the edge rusher for the New York Football Giants. Now they had, I'm just going to call it what it is, in my opinion, the best draft in the entire NFL. They took Abdul Carter, number 3 overall. Absolute incredible football player there. But they also invested in the edge rusher position a handful of years ago with the 5th overall pick. And Kayvon Thibodeaux in 2022 was that selection. The Saints, they do need to get better production out of their pass rush. They need to maximize that unit because that is a spot on the defensive line that has been lacking. But the New York Giants, for what it's worth in terms of the contract side of things, they did pick up Thibodeaux's 5th-year option. So in 2025, he's owed $9.9 million, and in 2026, it's $14.7. Both of those numbers are, in my opinion, affordable, and if you can get double-digit sacks out of this guy, then abso-freaking-lutely you do this. 2023, 11.5 sacks, 43 pressures. In 2024, only 5.5 sacks and 38 pressures, but that was in 12 games. I still want to see him be on the field more often. I want to see him be a little bit more productive, but I'm telling you right now, maybe, just maybe, a change of scenery will be necessary for Kayvon Thibodeaux. And honestly, I think that he would be an excellent addition to the New Orleans Saints defense. I think he'd bring some youth. I think he'd bring another big name, another highly valued player that was a top draft pick, so you would have him and Chase Young. Like, I think that would be a really smart move for the Saints, at least to kick the tires on. I mean, the Giants' defensive line has a lot of depth there. So at least kick the tires and see what it's going to cost you. But let's go to Cole Kmet, too, because we kind of just, skipped over this one. Again, I'm not trying to say, like, the Saints need a tight end. But if they want to get a second guy to line up with Juwan Johnson, maybe this is a player that could be worth it. Foster Moreau still recovering from a knee injury that he suffered in the last 2 minutes of the last game of the season last year. Taysom Hill, we don't know when he's going to be back, maybe October or November. And then after that, you got Dallin Holker, Maliki Matavao, Michael Jacobson, Jack Stoll. So there is, competition there. Cole Kmet, I think, could raise the overall skill level in the tight end room regardless. So I'm sold on Kayvon Thibodeaux. I'm all in on that. I think the Saints got to try it. What do you think? Would you trade for Kayvon Thibodeaux? Yes or no? Type T for trade or P for pass. Also, let me know about some of the other players that I mentioned between Jalen Ramsey, Jaire Alexander, and Cole Kmet as well. I mean, there's a lot of other names. If you have a name that the Saints should trade for, feel free to shout that out as well in the comments. Who Dat Nation, I really appreciate y'all for tuning in to today's video. Thank you so much to my guy, Joey Peterson, for hanging out on the ones and twos. Y'all stay golden. More content coming in this weekend. We'll see you next time.